What's going on, everybody? So it's been a little while since my last full-length video, but I am back with a full-length Death Corps of Krieg kill team, start to finish squad build. One of my first Warhammer kids back into the hobby, so let's get right into this video and I hope you guys enjoy it. Alright, for the people that don't know, Warhammer 40k is a tabletop miniature war game. You build and paint your models and you play it out on the battlefield that you may have built, or even on your rug or floor, wherever you can find, really. And back in 2007 to 2008 is when I first discovered this, and I went to a Games Workshop at the local mall, and I would go there every weekend after that once I got into the hobby and build and paint a whole bunch, but I never really knew how to play. But I love building and painting. Now in this video, at least for the start, we're not going to be working on my usual station. When I first started to build this squad, or wanted to start building it, I was going on a little vacation to my family's lake house that we've owned for years, and so I was going to build and paint on the same little table I worked on when I was a kid that I happen to have photos of myself building and painting on there with some orcs and some old Warhammer that I had back in the day. And so we're going to be going back to that place, trying to finish this project in a week. It took much longer than that, but we'll get to that. So let's get into the rest of this build and what we're doing. Alright, so it all starts back in the original room with the OG Nintendo, the old CRT, and the table I was working on in that photo. I brought a whole backpack full of all the hobby tools I was going to need to build these models, and a lot of other stuff like inspirational magazines and stuff like that to help along the way. Now, first thing we have to do though is get ourselves under this tiny little table. Alright, now that we've gotten situated here, we can take a look at the sprue and figure out how we want to go about building these figures. A bunch of different options, but we're going to start off with just the base and building the figures and the bodies. That way we can work together while I use these junk scraps to create a junkyard themed base for these guys. And you can kind of naturally pose and get the pose just right by picking the perfect scraps and the perfect leg and body configuration to make a cool pose and make everything look unique and awesome. This is what we came up with for the figures. Now we still have a couple more to do over here and behind me, but we have a big mess here still to go through of scraps, and then we'll move on to the next step, which is just filling up all the gaps and the flat areas on the base with some sand by putting super glue in those areas, and this way it all looks more natural, and like all the junk has been sitting there for quite a while and these guys are just walking over an environment. We throw some primer over them, and then we start clipping out all the other little pieces we're going to need for these guys so we can do a part separation build. And I start looking at some cool paint schemes that I want to do and getting a little inspired. So I went to one of my local games workshops and I picked these up. This is for sub-assemblies. It's to kind of build your models in different little pieces. Now when I bought this though, I was going in to buy a paint handle. And when I walked up to the cash register guy, I said, yeah, I'm really happy. I really want to try one of these paint handles out. And I don't know if he didn't notice either or what. Because the paint handle box is much smaller, so I accidentally bought these. I would never buy these in my life. Games Workshop got me, and this is one of those hobby supplies or things that you never need to buy, ever. So don't do that. Yeah, let's get back to the video. I ended up using the sub-assemblies, I kind of primed everything like this, but the way I'm gonna be doing my paint scheme, I kind of need to have everything built together. I did leave the backpacks off though. With this brand new airbrush, I was gonna start fiddling around with the scheme I wanted to do, and I also picked up the paint handle I mentioned, which is in the tinier box. This is the scheme that I was kind of going for, unhappy with it and my paints in general. I picked up some new paints and past Dan will take it on from here. Alright guys, so let's talk about the Death Corps of Krieg team kill that we're painting up. Now obviously you saw me build them, you saw me base them, we primed them, did all that stuff, and it's obviously well past that week. I have this very first one I painted. Didn't come out terrible, and you know, I don't hate it, but something about it is I felt like I could do better. We moved on to another one. Now, this one, I mean, you can see there's nothing really painted on it because as I went through it, I got a little frustrated and kind of just started trying random things just to see what would happen and just kind of botched the whole paint job. I have all these sub-assemblies and stuff. I'm going to, besides the backpacks, I'm going to glue everything together, and then from there, we are going to be going into with the airbrush. I'm going to be following a scheme I found online. Very dark and gritty. Obviously, there's a lot of detail in these models, and you just really got to get the things that stand out the most, make those punchy, make those highlighted, So yeah, this is kind of just like a fun, like get back into painting and all that kind of stuff and try some new things I didn't try when I was in middle school as a kid. So yeah, let's do it. So to start off with the scheme I'm following, I mix up a dark green drabby color and shoot it from a downward angle covering most of the cloth, and then doing a lighter color, doing the same thing but only covering about 70, leaving some shadows and darkness in the crevices to create some contrast and some depth with the models. Now going back after that, I mix up the original foundation color I did with the airbrush and put that over all the armor plates and the helmets and some of the metal pieces. Now I'm no expert at painting, so I'm not the best one to give you advice on everything you should do. I'm still learning and trying to improve my techniques from when I was a kid in middle school. And so definitely take anything I say with a grain of salt. But I went ahead and started painting the leather, mixing that up, and then doing the weathering and everything I had to do with that. And then kind of transitioning the light higher up on the top edges of these armor plates with the lighter color. Now back in the day, if I was a kid and had these models, I would be so happy because all these were only available in Forge World back in the day, which was in the UK, and you had to ship them over and it was super expensive, and to get a few models, even to build a whole squad, may cost you a couple $100s, so that was crazy. But to continue onward with this build, we are going ahead with the basing, and now I'm going to do a dark brown color over all the base to get it nice and painted with the foundation, and then we can start adding the tufts and doing some dry brushing and getting these models down to the final stages of the build and be happy with what we're going to be doing here and creating a nice environment for these models to look like they're living in. I made this little base here with a metal plate and put some magnets on the models. This way we can create an environmental scene and they can all stick to this plate, and I can carry around them and transport them safely if I ever go play the game Kill Teams. So on the metal base, I started adding some coconut fibers and building up the height of it so that all the models sit kind of flush within the landscape that we're creating. Using some pastels, we throw those over the models to blend them into the base, and we have our final beauty shots of the models. Alright everybody, that is the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed following along on the Death Corps of Krieg build and going back in time to my little tiny table that I worked on. Now if you want, please hit subscribe or a like. I'd greatly appreciate that. Or leave a comment below of what you want to see me build next. I'd really want more of those than any of the other two, so please do that. And yeah, I have plenty more Warhammer videos, and I promise you more, so there'll be definitely a building, not a building, but a painting video of the Grot tanks. So I hope you guys enjoy watching that next. And I got some other little dioramas planned that aren't Warhammer related, but if you like building and hobbying stuff, this is your place. My name is Dan, this is DTM Design. See you in the next one.